Alright, greetings and peace. My name is Neo, N-E-O, and I'm here to share some info with the people. Okay, and I'm going to go with my little disclaimer, or whatever you want to call it, my pre-video information mentioning that I am a relationship anatomist. And what I do as a relationship anatomist is I study, observe, examine, and investigate human relationships. And I have been doing it for a minimum of 6 or more years. And I started my relationship research journey after a breakup in the mid-2000s with a woman that I was with at the time, after I realized that I didn't know much about relationships and I didn't know much about myself, and that relationships are something that people have to learn and learn how to behave within them before jumping into them and getting involved with other people. And also I learned that back then and realized that there was no schools, no courses that actually teach the real deal information. And then you have some marriage counselors, you have some other relationship people on YouTube and a variety of other places. But with me doing my own studying, my own investigation, and coming to my own conclusions, I realized that there's a lot of nitty-gritty grassroots information that a lot of people fail to mention, whether it be they fail to mention it intentionally or they themselves don't know as far as this relationship information. So the stuff that my investigations, I literally speak with people and I go around asking them questions and I observe them, examine them. And it started with my family. And after years of reading different material, a variety of material, studying movies, because there's relationship aspects that's within the movies that give me real deal information, and a lot of people don't realize that these movies contain real deal information that's actually going on. People think that it's all airy-fairy, imaginary stuff that's in these movies, but that's what society wants you to believe, but they don't tell you that this is real deal information that have already occurred before and are currently occurring. So I studied a lot of movies, and you can see what I have done in the past regarding my YouTube video where I break down the relationship aspects of certain movies. So you can go to my channel and check some of my old stuff. Check that out too, my relationship lectures that I have here, that you can hear my relationship insights there. And this information that I provide here for free to the public, this is just small basic stuff. There's still a lot of relationship information that I can provide, however, at a cost, at a charge, with relationship consultation. So we can talk about that any other time. So, with me studying my family first, I have learned a lot about families and a lot about my own family. Starting first with the pattern of teen pregnancy that goes on within my family. My oldest sister, my second oldest sister, and my last sister, my youngest sister, all three got pregnant within their teen years, between 16 and 19, I believe. That was the pattern. And I broke it down years later, analyzing it, reflecting on the situation and analyzing it. And now that I see the pattern, and I realize that they're very few to no one who actually recognize their family patterns. And let me go through this. Let me tell you this. Every family has one or more family patterns that everyone gets involved in, whether it be consciously or unconsciously. The majority of the time is unconsciously, because there's so much information within people's in DNA, a family DNA, that causes them to behave in a certain way. Some families have a large amount of alcoholics within their family that makes it more the descendants, so to speak, more susceptible to becoming an alcoholic. Then you have some people who are chronic abusers, like the son saw his father beat on his mother, and or his father's beat on his girlfriends, and then the son just psychologically absorbs it, because the son doesn't know how to control his mind and how to block out those visions and to know the right and wrong. So he's just absorbing it, and then when he gets older and gets in a relationship with a woman, he's gonna do the same old thing. Yes, you know, the Chris Brown shit. He said he saw it with his father, and either with their father, or it doesn't matter, some kind of male, they see it. And then some young women, when they're in their early childhood, they see their mother abusing their father, or the mother abusing her boyfriends, whether it be verbally and or physically, because there are a lot of women that abuse men. There's a lot of women in my family who abuse men, and that cycle continues. And at the same time, there's a lot of females in my family that attract weak-minded men, that causes them to want to beat down these men. But it's like when they get with it, I've noticed with me at least, once I've developed myself to be psychologically strong, once women see that I'm the strong one psychologically, they back the fuck off, and then all of that abusing that they usually do with other men, they realize they can't do it with me, because I'll step the fuck up and say, look, hold up, wait. So they know what the deal is for the ones that have dealt with me. That's why you got to work on your personal development, fellas, and women too, to get your mind right, so you can know how to behave within relationships. So what goes on, and so that's the family pattern. So that's why you have to do your self-reflection, self-analysis, and self-development, so that you can identify your family patterns, and so that you can identify if you want to continue on with that family pattern or not. For me and my family, it's been illegitimate children being born and teen pregnancies. Once I saw that pattern, the spirit told me, like, look, avoid having children, just avoid having it. And I see the results of me not having children, avoiding having children, and also the reasoning for that, why the spirit told me to do that with the spiritual work. And where was I? So I identified the pattern, so I was able to avoid that. And so the pattern is, I've noticed with my family, starting with my family first, and then also investigating other people, these young women, is that one of the top causes of teen pregnancy is not having a strong father figure in their early childhood period, the childhood section. I'm talking a strong, mature father or father figure. A lot of people still don't know what mature means, because they have not internalized maturity in your heart and in your mind. Once you internalize it, boom, It's just natural. You just know what to do in almost any situation, and you know how to avoid stepping on other people's toes, including your own children's toes, so to speak, and knowing how to avoid and when to avoid annoying your children. The parents that consistently annoy their children in one way or another, these are immature parents. They're what I call grown-up children. And most people, in my opinion, based on my investigation and knowing what maturity is, most people who consider themselves adults by age, because society in America at least, especially, measure adulthood by age. 18 and or older, that's considered an adult. 18 here, which really spiritually and DNA wise, the person is supposed to be an adult. At the age of 14, I heard a noise, so I didn't know what that was. I think that was, oh yeah, that's my computer. I thought that was a door jiggling. There's something in here loose. At the age of 14, that's why your teenager that you have that's 14 or was 14, he or she wanted to be out doing things by themselves because they psychologically, well, I would say DNA wise, their behavior, the DNA tells them that they want to get out and do certain things by themselves. But the American society teaches the parents to retard the maturity process and tells them that your child is not an adult until 18. But if the parent knew this information and focused on the psychological development of the child before the age of 14, then the child would be psychologically prepared for adulthood and can actually go out and do things on their own, especially by the time they get 16, 18, and 20. But because the parents don't know this and they don't put their children through a maturity process so that the child can mature to a high level into adulthood, there's still a lot of 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds, even 70-year-olds that still are psychologically young and children and lost. So that's the top thing. And then not only with the father not being there, but there being a immature mother in the child's life. And overall, the parents and or caretakers fail to put the child through a consistent, strong, stable maturity process of some sort so that the child can grow into a mature adult and make wise decisions. So because of that, failing to do that, the child ends up being psychologically lost and like a paper that flows with the wind, just goes with the wind. Anywhere the wind blows it, it just goes with the wind. So when the child goes through high school, they are pressured to do a variety of things. So now we're talking about females, right? Teen pregnancy. So then you have these young females within high school, especially these beautiful ones. There's a lot of beautiful young women, young females, and I know which ones are going to be attacked or pursued, not attacked, pursued heavily by immature males who might appear as so-called cute by these young females, and then the cute males go ahead and attach themselves to the females, and the young females, because they're lost and they have no psychological defense and psychological flexibility, agility to be able to move around in these situations and to know what's about to come up, and because they don't know how to recognize their intuition and follow through it, that's telling them like, look, this male, you don't need to mess with him. He is a fucking idiot and he's immature. And him being in high school, he's more than likely still immature, unless his father, mother, or caretakers or whoever put him through a maturity process, allowing him to be the strong, mature one that's different from these idiots that's within the high school and within the young age before 25, I would say, because a lot of males don't mature at least minimally until 25 to 30. It depends on the psychological development work they go through and the experiences they go through and actually learn from. Because you can go through experiences but not learn from them. So there's a difference between learning experience versus an experience. A learning experience comes from self-reflection. Reflection on yourself and reflection on the whole situation, the whole experience. So that's when you got to sit down by yourself and think about like, okay, now let me see, what is it about the situation that I can learn from? And you going into your mind and you remembering all of the stuff that happened, but you got to learn what your ego is, and you got to move the ego and the self-denial out of the way, because the ego deals with self-denial, and self-denial only blocks you from being able to reflect on yourself, analyze yourself, and start working on yourself, resolving your issues. Bingo. That's a keynote. Remember that. So, with these young females being highly vulnerable on many levels, and there's nobody there to really protect them, and them not being psychologically strong, so they fall for a lot of these stupid tricks that these males, whether regardless of age, but in particular we're talking about the young females, like within high school, I'll say, these young females, they fall for these dumb tricks, and especially the I love you trick that these males do. They act like they love the woman, the female, when the male that's in high school age, I'll say high school age, has no clue about what love is. No clue about what love is. A lot of males, there's very few males who receive adequate amount of love and affection from their parents or some form of caretaker. Adequate. Most people don't even know what adequate amount of love and affection is. So how the fuck can a teenager, a male teenager, well, I'll say teenagers in general, know what the fuck love is if they never received it, they never perceived it, other than from what they saw on TV that shows them, okay, holding hands with another person, kissing, going to parties, going to the movies, having sex. Literally, that's how it is in America. The media only shows that small little framework of what relationships are, truly is, in what love is. And a lot of people, they fall into that little box. And just like the lady said to Doctor Strange in the Doctor Strange movie, she said, you have been looking through life you have been looking at reality through a keyhole. I say most people, and based on my investigation of relationships and my studying of it and really analyzing relationships, most people have been looking at relationships through a keyhole. A keyhole. They have been seeing very small aspects of it. They don't understand and they don't fully comprehend the psychological and emotional aspects of relationships and all of the psychological effort that is required from an individual to be successful within relationships and help the relationship thrive, actually progress. Very few people comprehend this and actually know what to do within relationships. That's why I say most people that say that they're ready for relationships and they're looking for them, I know if they're ready or not. I really know if they're ready or not. And if they know the ins and outs of it. And you can go back and look at my relationship lectures, listen to those, and you'll know I know what the fuck I'm talking about, because I have studied a lot of the ins and outs, and I'm still learning the ins and outs, and I'm open to learning, because learning is a continuous process. You hear that, young people? Learning is a continuous process. This is something that a lot of American parents and American people in general don't realize. They think that they realize that, but they don't, because a lot of people here in America, once they graduate from high school and college, and then they get their job, they think that they're just an adult. Oh, I'm an adult. I have this and I have that. And they stop learning. There's very few people that actually run around seeking more information. I'm one of those people that's an information seeker and actually utilize that information. And for me, this relationship situation, I first started off learning this relationship information for myself. I didn't intend to give this information out at all to nobody. I just wanted to know what the fuck I need to learn, so that I know what I'm doing within relationships, so that I can have my part covered in relationships. And then if the relationship gets fucked up, it's more than likely the other person. But I can help the other person now that I know what I know, and I have to balance myself. I can help them out and say, look, I like you, so look, this is what you need to do to help out in this situation. So I can do that now. But the Spirit came through years ago and said, look, you have this information now, you got to give it out. You got to give it out. So that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been doing throughout the years. So I utilize information. So it's a continuous process with learning. So you have to learn to keep your mind open and learn new things, especially if it involves you evolving to higher levels. So back to what I'm talking about, teen pregnancy. So you got a lot of these young males that have these different tactics just to get with these females, to have sex with them, and then the young female who's lost and who did not receive the adequate amount of love and affection from their parents and or caretakers or whoever it is, and a lack of guidance within their life that helps them develop their mind to wherever that will allow them to make wise decisions, then they end up falling for this young male, thinking that he loves them and is there for them, to care for them. And for a little while it appears that way, and that's exactly what the male wants the female to think. But until he gets with that female, that's what he's going to do until he gets into her pants. And then once he gets her pregnant, him being lost himself and not mature, him being immature, psychologically young and lost, he doesn't know what to do. So he freaks out and doesn't want to talk to the female anymore. That happens a lot. And then now you have a young pregnant female, single, with a child. Once that occurs, then the young female, usually on most accounts, with my investigation and analysis of relationships, the young female will spend many years of her life putting her time and energy into the child. Once that occurs, there's less energy and attention that goes into herself, in her own self evolution, growing into a mature adult. So now you have a lot of single women till this day who have one or more children, no husband, no boyfriend. If they do have a husband or a boyfriend, it's usually a weak-minded one. He's not a real man, strong, mature man, and he's just half-assing it. the situation. He's barely helping her. And if he's helping her, he's not helping her being the support system, psychological support system that her and the children can stand upon, lean on throughout any situation, especially those tough situations of adversity. And a lot of men don't realize they have to be the support system, the strong one. But you have to do your self-development work first as a man and develop your mind to a higher, strong level so that you can be able to do these things. But a lot of men don't realize this, and they don't want to put in the work to be able to do these things. So that's the situation that's going on nowadays. So overall, you have a lot of these single females with one or more children, and they're still lost because they didn't go through any type of maturity process. And then when another male comes into their life that appears to want to help, these females, not knowing what to look for because they didn't get the information, they don't know what to look for. So they just, other than the affection that the male gives to her, he's financially set. That's one aspect of adulthood in relationships. As far as romantic relationships, it does help having an individual who's financially secure, especially on the male part. However, that's one aspect. Remember, maturity in adulthood involves psychological development. It requires the mind. It deals with the minds much more than material possessions. American society has been taught to people that you measure adulthood with material possessions and your age. That's one aspect. In actuality, somebody can be completely jobless, carless, and could be living with somebody else, and even be 16 years of age, let's say, but can be way more mature and have the adulthood mindset more than a 35-year-old male or female. That's how real it is. And that's because that child has either developed themselves and or they just are on a higher spiritual level that they just know how to be. Their inner being just shows them, like, look, this is how to be, and they can just be mature. That's how I was largely. I was way more mature. I was told that I was way more mature than the average person my age, and I felt more mature because I felt like a father figure to a lot of people. And even to this day, like, there's some 20, 30, 40, 50s, and even 60-year-old people that I really feel like I can teach them a lot, and I feel like I want to be a father figure to them, but especially these young females. So that's why whenever I can, I speak with them and teach them a few things. So this is what's going on with teen pregnancy a lot. There's no mature, strong parental guidance, or at least adult guidance that goes on early in the female's life, that allows the female to grow into their mind, to develop into adulthood so that they can make wise decisions. And the lack of relationship information that allows the female to identify what a mature male is versus an immature male, and how to identify how they speak, how they treat people, and how they overall behave, how they carry themselves. If there was some kind of training that goes on early in the female's life, then the female will be much more mature and be able to choose their boyfriends wisely. With my investigation of this, most young females within their teenage years don't know how to choose their boyfriends wisely. And with this society, American society in particular, it does not help in this process. It actually makes things worse, and it's set up to make families be dysfunctional families. That's why you have so many dysfunctional families, because there's a heavy influence going on many levels, many levels, and you got to sit down and really see what's going on to really be able to protect yourself. That's why I say going through a maturity process. And let me tell you what the maturity process is based on my analysis after obtaining the intel of relationships and families and of the mind and the ego and the spiritual self. The maturity process includes learning about what the ego is. Everybody has an ego. Learning, and also how it functions and how to bypass it, because you can bypass your ego so you can focus on what you need to focus on and actually be able to perceive what you need to perceive to be able to do your personal development work. Also learning what the mind is, which not everybody has a mind. Some people are literally mindless. They're mindless and soulless, and they're just empty shells operating on societal programs. So learning what the mind is, how it functions, how to cultivate it, and how to control it. The maturity process also includes what your spiritual self is, how to contact it, and how to perceive the higher guidance from it and its internal guidance. Once you get that internal guidance and you know how to perceive it and listen to it, you develop inner peace, and you avoid doing a lot of things that society tells you to do, because social norms are not always beneficial to your highest good. Just because something is of a social norm does not mean that you should be getting involved with it. That's another part of maturity process that I would put the child through if I had my own child, or if I'm working with a young individual. Like, look, you got to do this, and this. And I'm still trying to decide on what type of maturity process course I could provide to people, because people need to know this stuff. Because for me, now that I know this stuff and I put myself through this situation, but it was all willy-nilly. I mean, there was no structured way of me doing it for myself. But once I got to a point where I was balanced enough and strong enough, like, oh, okay, I got it. Now when I'm an adult, I make wise decisions, and I know who to avoid and how to do this, and that, and I know how to control my mind. So now I can sit down and put a structured process for other individuals who want to evolve themselves, especially if you're going to do things like get into any industry where you're going to be considered a celebrity, especially that. And I'm thinking about doing a video about maturity and celebrity status, because there's a lot of shit that's going on that people don't understand the importance of maturity before celebrity. So that's that. If you have any more questions, then let me know. Then go ahead and ask me. But that is from my investigation of relationships and families. That is what's going on with these teenage pregnancies. They're starting with the female. The female is lost. She doesn't know. She lacks a lot of information in general, life information, self-information, and relationship information, including what's a mature, strong male versus the immature male. That's why I highly discourage teenage dating. And I've received a lot of intel, and I've seen what's going on. I've seen it with my sisters. I've seen it with a lot of my families. And teenage dating is not beneficial at all. The teenage process, that is still, in my opinion, based on my information, that is still the development stages for individuals, for a young person, developing their mind, their brain, and overall body. And people, when they are in situations where they are disappointed, the average teenager freaks out, especially when they're disappointed from a loved one, and also from a loved one that they're in a romantic relationship with. You've seen it many times, and many of you have been disappointed, especially you women out there. You've been disappointed by your first boyfriend, your second, third, or whatever, and you got pregnant by one, and he left you because he freaked out. You know how that goes when your ego makes you feel lost. When you have that lost feeling, and you feel like, what's that feeling? Abandonment. That's another psychological issue that many people suffer from. Abandonment from their parents. And then with that belief going deep into a person's subconscious mind, abandonment occurs frequently within their life. If it happens more and more, it just keeps reassuring it, and then they're going to keep attracting people that do the same thing, abandonment. And whenever that's what really bothers me most, is when seeing these young females being abandoned frequently, regardless of who it is. That's why I just like to hold these young females and tell them, give them whatever kind of advice I can get them. And that's one thing that I really would like to do, is work with these young females too, and show them what the deal is. Like, look, this, and this is going on, so you got to watch out for this, and this is how you behave in this situation. He's going to do this if you look this way and do this. So what you got to do is, you have to say this, but you got to avoid this. You control your mind like this. Man, it's so much stuff that I can teach these young females. And I wanted to start with Jay, the 23-year-old that I speak about frequently, the one that I was trying to get with. Especially once I realized that she didn't have anybody else to teach her, I was like, okay, I'm perfect for this situation. So I want to stay with her, be her friend, put her on a higher psychological and spiritual level, and then see what occurs after this. But it didn't turn out that way, so and that really sucks. So then I was like, all right, well then. And then the other reason why I wanted to start with her is, with me being an older brother to my younger sister, while we were together in my mother's home, we were living there, I wasn't on this awakened psychological level, strength, maturity as I am now. And with my younger sister, she has her psychological issues, and she's lost, and she still has her daddy issues. I can't really get through to her. So it's like, until she wakes up out of that and really sees that I can help her, then I'm not going to force myself. I'm not going to intervene prematurely. So I was like, all right, well then I can make up with that by finding some other young females and helping raising them up and guiding them through life. So that's one of the things that I've been focusing on and trying to see what I can come up with this situation. But I just had to speak on teen pregnancy, and it happens a lot frequently, and I see it in these movies too. Let me see if I can give you an example. All right, what movie can I say that I've seen? What's some good movies? Damn, there's a lot of good movies that shows you teen pregnancy, and these the MTV show, whatever that is, whatever those teen pregnancy things is, it happens a lot. You can see it in that right there. You can see the lack of parental guidance, mature parental guidance, you can see that the female is completely lost on many levels. She's vulnerable. A lot of males take advantage of her in all of the different cases. They take advantage of her. Then she's still immature, running around being angry. And then if the female, and then there was one of them that I was watching, she was talking to the mother, and what was she talking about to the mother? She was saying something that she was missing. She was just the young girl. She was about 17. She was just trying to have a real deal conversation with her mother, and this occurs a lot with immature parents. She was trying to have a real deal conversation with her mother, and she was being honest with her mother, open, right? And then the mother, because of the mother's ego and her self-denial, that it was too strong to be able to perceive that her child was trying to be real with her and honest. So the mother, she laughed in the conversation. She laughed at what her daughter said. And now, what I mean by this, and if you, I don't know what the child name was, but if you really are mature, you know that certain situations, when a person, you can just know when a person is being real with you, especially a young person, a young child who's lost and who needs that guidance. And when they being real with you, the young person in particular, when they're being real with you, you have to avoid laughing. And then the mother didn't realize, because the mother was immature and she was lost, she was psychologically unstable and emotionally unstable, and she didn't want to accept that information that was being put onto her about her. So she laughed at the child, and then she walked away, at her child, and she walked away. And then the young girl, she just started crying, and I knew exactly what was going on, and I knew why the girl was crying, and that really hurt me, because I know how she feels, because that happened to me often with my mother before I was psychologically strong as I am now. Because now I can just stand up to my mother, and I know not to go to her for any advice if I can avoid it, especially advice about life. Once I realized that I had inner guidance and I had my spiritual self to tell me what the fuck to do in life, and I realized that my mother and father and my family in general were psychologically and emotionally unavailable, I was like, alright then, fuck it. I learn life by myself and get guidance from myself. So my mother has that self-denial block that a large portion of parents have. So she said a lot of dumb shit to me before I was psychologically strong, and in my early years, in my teenage years, and that stuff is tough to get through when you don't have any help and you're not at that psychologically strong level yet to be able to deal with that shit. I knew how she felt, and I know how a lot of these teenagers feel when their parents just laugh at them at the wrong time in these real deal situations where the child wants to speak with the parent on a authentic, open-hearted moment, but then they just laugh, or they just walk away, or they get angry as far as the parent. And that's why I mean there's a lot of so-called adults that are grown-up children. And it hurt me when I saw her crying, and there was nobody there to hug her. And when there's nobody there to hug the young female, oh my God, that bothers me a lot. Because I like to be the one, at least, if there's nobody else there, I like to be the one that holds her, consoles her, and tell her it's going to be alright, and I'll figure out some kind of way to hold her. I mean, to support her and guide her. because I know how it is when you don't have that parental guidance. Because I didn't have it in my life. I had to move out of my mother's house and learn this life on my own, and I'm glad that I did. And even though I went through all of those trials and errors, but all of those allowed me to develop to a higher evolutionary level. So that's that. I talked enough. All right, till next time.